Okay, so hello and welcome to our coffee hours with Cortney Mumaugh of Little Monkey Kitchen. This evening we're talking about pop-up shops. Welcome, Cortney.
Hello, good to be here.
Thank you so much. I know when I heard we were doing pop-up shops, I was like, okay, I am really excited about this idea and would love to get observations from someone who's done it.
It's
What
definitely a learning experience.
Yeah. Are you a big fan? Are you a big fan of pop-up shops?
I am. It's like I said, it's a big growing and learning opportunity. There wasn't a whole lot that I could get information from firsthand beyond online experience. I've joined several different Facebook groups of kind of the food truck, trailer, pop-up shop type thing and got some ideas from them. But unfortunately, locally, which is, your whole market is local, it's kind of hard to see what would work and what wouldn't work. And so we're definitely learning, and I'm sure still making mistakes that when we look back a couple of years from now, be like, why did we do that? But got to roll with the punches.
So, in how many different locations have you done pop-up shops?
Right now, we're just in Columbus Grove. Pre-COVID, we had anticipated in starting up one in Findlay, actually the week everything closed. So we have not started that one back up. They're actually closed for remodeling right now. So that is a hope to get somewhere a little bit farther north. But like everything else, we're waiting for opening dates and when people feel safe. We have our first one coming up in a couple of weeks, and honestly, not entirely sure how that one's going to go. So we will we'll see and adjust as needed.
Yeah, and so if anyone's not familiar with what a pop-up shop is, it's a temporary shop in a location for hours or days. Sometimes they're in malls, sometimes they're in a corner of an existing store. They could be temporarily in an unoccupied piece of property. Cortney, what kind of space are you in Columbus Grove?
Ours is actually, I would go more of an unoccupied space. It's part of a larger conference. It's a big building in downtown Columbus Grove. And as I'm sure you know, a lot of those are sectioned off into different businesses. And the building owner has the one portion of it is used as like a conference room that they have baby showers, bridal showers, family reunions, stuff like that. And then off to the left, there's just this perfect big picture window essentially that they use for displays. And now that Christmas is over, they had a huge Christmas display there. But it's a perfect little spot for us. It's literally all windows. So we have tons and tons of exposure. It's right by a four-way stop. So not that Columbus Grove is downtown is super huge and there's tons of traffic, but it is that exposure and kind of those weird glances as they're stopped at the red light, like, what are you doing in there? But it's awesome for just people walking around and very easy to spot for the out-of-towners that know what we look like. So it's pretty easy for them to find us.
And I've introduced you as Little Monkey Kitchen, but introduce our viewers to your business.
So we're an allergy-friendly home bakery. Everything we do is exclusively gluten, dairy, egg, and soy-free. Our home is free of all those allergens, and then we also work with lots of other things like nuts, which are obviously in the top 8, and then we do even rare ones like apples and cinnamon and vanilla and coconut and potatoes and all the other things that you don't really think of every day.
So what does a pop-up shop enable you to do? How has it helped you grow your business?
Well, we have tried doing craft shows before, which is hit and miss because obviously baked goods, there are tons of craft shows, people at craft shows. So trying to stand out and show our market was difficult because they see a cupcake or a cinnamon roll and go, well, I already saw 20 of those today and move along. We've tried doing outside like farmers markets. Unfortunately, in Ohio in the summer, those just don't work for us because all of our decorated items melt into oblivion and it's just literally a hot mess to deal with. And so this is kind of the perfect transition for us. With the way our kids are right now and ages, a brick and mortar just isn't in the works. And honestly, with the COVID and the way that is kind of transpired in watching other businesses, I can't be more thankful that we don't have a brick and mortar right now to deal with, because we did not have to pay rent. We only pay rent when we used the facility. So we didn't lose any money. Obviously, we didn't get anything from not having them, but we are not out anything, which is a huge, huge thing right now. And so we are able to, since it's not really a usable space for them, we can basically do whatever hours we want. We've got a very good relationship with the business owners. As long as we pay on time, everything's good. And we pay at the end of the month or beginning of the month, however you want to think of it. And so it works out perfect for us of our schedules. We're shooting right now for the third Tuesday and first Saturday to kind of give some consistency of people know when to expect us. That's evolving too as things go on. We were supposed to have a dance recital this coming week, so obviously that got canceled, so we're going to try to throw one in. So like I said, a big learning experience.
How important do you think having that schedule is? I'm assuming that it's not like, oh, we did one and it was a success or a failure. We won't try that again.
It's definitely hard because we started last summer was our first, and I was hoping we would have a successful year to look back on. Obviously that did not happen with the way things went down, and I was hoping to have a full calendar year to look back and say, okay, this is how it went. And there are times that I think are going to be super awesome and we get 3 people, and then other times I don't plan for much and it's constant. It really is hit and miss. And that's why we try to do an evening during the week for the people that work, and then Saturday mornings for people that work other shifts. But obviously, even with that, normal times, granted, we've got sports practices, you have work, there's baby showers, weddings, like all kinds of things that it's hard to just find a time that works for everybody.
Yeah.
You talked about consistency with your hours. Are you consistent with your products, or do you bring new things every week?
It is new things. We create a Facebook event is the biggest way we have, and we have done different dates, and that was one of the complaints we got from people of, I never know when you're going to be there. We don't have any signs there because it's not our property, so it would be nice if we could kind of have a little sign of, next time it'll be whatever. But not being our building, I understand that's not our place to have that. So we put it on Facebook, but obviously not everybody has Facebook, which creates other barriers. So we're trying to do more consistent of the first Saturday and the third Tuesday. So that way, even if you don't have Facebook, you kind of have that reminder of, oh, hey, it's then. I wonder if I can check into it. Facebook, which is another thing of trying to deal with. You don't have to have a Facebook account to see our account. We are a business page. So, and trying to get people to understand that you can see all of our events without actually being on Facebook. You can't comment or anything like that, but you can physically see where we're going to be and when we're going to be.
Fantastic.
Do you have your Facebook business page linked as your website on your Google listing?
I believe so. We're still kind of fighting for that. We started that way back during the classes of trying, and it's still fighting us back and forth. It is on the list. It has been done. I don't know if it is currently still done because we try it and it looks and everything looks great, and then we check it like a couple days later and it's all gone. So it's a process.
Stand.
So I'm checking that right now. And it does take me to Facebook.
Okay.
It does, yeah. And I'm really pleased. This past week, I worked with both Ottawa Odd Jobs and Touch of Europe on their Facebook pages, on their Google listings. I've got the designation of, why can I never remember what it's called? Oh, I'm a local guide, and it sort of like puts me to the front of the line. So I go on Google Maps if there isn't a listing, and I say, okay, add such and such. And Touch of Europe took 1 day, whereas the one that Ottawa Odd Jobs started the process, so they were already sort of in the queue. I checked back. It was like watching water boil. I checked back. No, it's not there. I mean,
That's what I felt like. We
yeah.
started with the class, that one snow class that we had that, and we started it that night, and it took forever. We got the postcard, so I know that slowed things down, but it just took forever.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, some things take a lot of patience. That's one of them. So how about your sales? Do you have a Square or some electronic sales point? Do you take cash? How do you handle those things?
We generally do cash or check for most things. We do have a Square account, but for the most part, I only use those at our pop-up markets. I carry it with me everywhere we go, but unfortunately, some of the different locations we meet, internet is less than desirable, so I try not to have people rely on that as the first means. We had prior to switching banks, we had the Chase Quick Pay. We had that account set up too for people that had Chase accounts, could move it that way, but that has not worked as well as I would like it to lately. So we've switched pretty much primarily to Square.
Mm-hmm. And is it like moving house when you set up shop? Is it a big chore?
It feels like it, yeah. They have tables there which we can use, but we bring in our own table coverings, and then obviously we have all our products in and of itself, and then we have tablecloths just to dress it up a little bit. We have our sign for outside, and then our cash box, and as it's kind of like the take and go bakery. So then we have all our bags, all our gloves, all of our parchment squares to get, and trash cans, and it's quite the production.
Yeah. When I was looking at this list of, I found a site that had some how-tos, and I don't know, it looked like camping to me. Leave it as clean as you found it, and
Yep.
things like that. So I would assume you have to really make sure. Yeah, do you have to take your trash with you? Is there water you can use, etc.
Yeah, and there's always something you forget. I'm a big list maker, so I have everything but there's always that time that the list gets lost or something happens. We've been doing, for the pop-up shops, do a cake by the slice, where we do a decorated cake, and so people can just take a slice instead of ordering cupcakes or cakes, because there's something different for having a piece of decorated cake. And the first two, I forgot a knife. So thankfully they had a kitchen there, so we ran back there and washed it and grabbed it, and it wasn't a big deal because I just washed it again, and again, it's just a knife. But had we been at a facility that didn't have a kitchen, we would have had a much bigger problem.
Right.
Do you feel like you have the system streamlined, or do you feel like you're
No.
still no?
No, I would like to think so, and part of it is just here at our house too, because obviously having a kitchen that you take with you to different places, and trying to get the kitchen or our home kitchen organized enough that I have space for things. Because one of the biggest issues I've ran into with the pop-up markets is almost like the holiday orders of I ran out of space to put things. And so we built some new kitchen cupboards, I guess would be the best way to do it. It's basically like a giant baking rack that we can put stuff in. And so now I'm trying to work in the space to actually have all of our pop-up stuff there. So when I get home, the tablecloths always go in the washer to get washed right away. But that way we have everything just ready to go. And we had one time we forgot the key, one time we forgot the cash box. Like it just, there's always something that's like, we get halfway there, which granted it's only 15 minutes, but still, we're always running behind that last second, and you get there and it's like, oh, do you have that? No. Do you have that? Oh. And it's definitely learning curves.
And lots of organization.
Yes. And then you throw kids and a husband in that, and then it all goes away.
Oh, yeah.
At your pop-up shops, do you bring like specific orders for specific customers, or do you do that at a separate time?
In the beginning, we had opened it to anything, because I honestly had no idea how much turnout we would have. You can have 300 people comment on coming to an event and you have 2. Like, you can't use that as any kind of indication, which I learned the hard way. But In the beginning, we opened it up because it's like, I just want people there because like a lot of stores, once you're there, chances are you're going to buy something. And so even people that placed orders, they would, pick up an extra cookie or an extra cinnamon roll. And obviously those are smaller purchases, but they all add up over the course of time. We've dialed back from that now because I was getting this super intricate allergies. Everything we do for our pop-ups are also nut free, so that makes everything we do for the pop-ups the top 8 free, which fits probably 85% of my clients. But I would get those other people who would order for the pop-ups too, and those are the ones that obviously I need to be extra careful for. But when you're already trying to get mass quantities of things and then have smaller quantities of these very specialized things, it just got to be so much of a headache that it was nice when they could go and pick up at a central location with other people, but chances are they couldn't buy anything else that I already had made because of the allergies. So it really didn't work out. And so we've kind of gotten away from that of what I have on the menu is what's available.
Can you think of any particular things that you learned? I'm thinking your needs are very specific as an allergy-friendly bakery, but things that would apply to different types of retail. Any lessons that you learned in the process?
I'd say probably the biggest one would be not to trust Facebook. Like, it's a fantastic thing, like I said, to get the market out there and to have the event out there and people share and post and comment, but of using that as, okay, well, there's, 47 people said they were coming, and so I need to quadruple everything I was planning on. And then, like I said, it snows or it rains or it's a sunny day or whatever the reason is, and you have 15 people show up. And then it's, okay, well, all of this was baked fresh. What do I do with it now? And I have had pretty good luck with posting things after the event to get rid of stuff like that, because I've learned there are people who, no matter what, will come to every single pop-up market I have, but they will not place an order. Like, they've been with me since I've started, but for whatever reason, to just contact us directly, they will not do. So there's different things like that. And there's people who won't come to the pop-up markets, but if it's over at 10:30, at 10:25, I'm getting messages of, what do you have left over? I'll take it. It's like, but just come. Like, and so there's definitely the different people, but as we're technically over a year into this, but almost a year of actually there's definitely people of, okay, I know they're gonna, message me 2 days before to place an order, or I know they're going to message me an hour after it's done to see what's left, and kind of go from there.
Yeah, that reminds me, did anybody email me 10 minutes after our meeting started? Sort of getting used to that. You think you have it all set up, and then, oh wait, there's this factor of all these other people. I've got to keep them in mind. How I planned it, doesn't mean that at 10.
And we have that too. We try to do an hour and a half to 2 hours in length, and we'll have people of, oh, I'm in Columbus, but we're on our way home, could you stay open? Or I have so-and-so that's 20 minutes away, could you stay open? And just things like that too, that kind of play in of, I wasn't really expecting of, and we're not a brick and mortar store, so there's kind of that fine line, but we're also paying rent, and so we pay by the hour. So if, cleaning, we have kind of streamlined how long that takes us to get in and out. But, if we're staying open an extra 20 minutes for somebody who's going to buy $8 worth of things, is that worth it? And so there's a lot of weighing stuff like that. And I'm like a lot of people, and I have a terrible time at saying no. So thankfully my husband is there. He's like, nope, you said your hours, like, let's go.
You mentioned that there's a big window. Do you feel like that adds to your success, that people can see you? And
yes, that is definitely a help for literal exposure. It has its pitfalls too when we have the summer months, especially when we do the evenings, the sun is glaring in, and so we've had to bring some like box fans to keep things cool, because we made some chocolate dipped cookies the one time, and it did not matter where I put them in that. It was so hot. I was constantly running them back to the freezer and switching out, because, and the room or the unit is air conditioned. So it's it's just literally the sun coming through a hot window at sunset that can be an issue. And obviously you have glares with that too. And but overall, definitely having that. I think if we would be in a back room somewhere, we wouldn't have near the success of literal street exposure.
Well, and with people driving by and they'll see what's going on, then they'll ask questions, and then that'll start talk
Yes.
for your
And
next
we've had
one.
several
So that's
people,
always good too. That's free advertisement.
more so in the evenings of they're out on their walks with their friends or taking the dog for a walk and like, oh, hey, I saw you. And so they come in and talk for a minute. And it may not always result in a sale, but you know, it is that exposure of just seeing us. And then there's sometimes especially when they have kids of, oh, hey, they had cookies, mom, like, and that works out too down the road of, because, you know, kids remember stuff like that more so than adults. And if they happen to go the wrong way, then they end up with a couple cookies.
Yeah, what is so special about that surprise treat that you didn't plan on having?
Yes, and especially Grove. I mean, we don't have any bakeries. They've had a couple that have cycled through, but and you know, in addition to that of having the allergy friendly, and I have a lot of people too that'll be like, oh, I just saw this post on Facebook and rush in. They're like, I'm glad you're still here. We never heard of you, but we wanted to check it out. And then more often than not, they end up coming back or ordering if they're from out of town.
So what are your summer products like? I imagine that your business is pretty holiday, you know, holidays have an impact on our menus. What's your summer routine going to be like?
It does, but it doesn't. People want what they want. It just kind of depends. Like I thought for like pumpkin, for example, I always kind of figure that a fall treat, but I sell that year round, and I sell as long as I can have access to it. And obviously things like peach pies and rhubarb pie, things like that that are a little bit more seasonal. I try to get fresh when possible and local when possible, but we actually have, I don't know if it's this one or the next one, we have pumpkin pie or pumpkin cake that somebody had requested, and I have no doubt that it will go because it's food, and so people eat year round. There's definitely like our cookie decorating kits are more so at the holidays.
It's pumpkin.
Yeah. And it's not terrible for you. That's kind of the other thing. They're like, well, it's pumpkin, it's fine. It's like, well, if you'd see the amount of sugar in here, you would disagree with that, but it's a start.
They don't need to know. They don't need to know.
And I do try to correct people with that because they hear allergy friendly and so they think healthy, and it's like, well, that's not really what we're about. It's probably healthier than some things, but I would not put a healthy label on our stuff at all.
I want to encourage everyone who's watching to look up Little Monkey Kitchen and check out Cortney's photographs, because her desserts are really beautiful. I think you do a lot of things for special occasions, and
yep.
They're certainly special because they're safe. Very, you know, they're exactly what you need for your because of the allergies, but they're just, I have so much fun with how great they look.
We eat with our eyes. And it works out perfectly. I taught cake decorating classes in college, and I've done it right out of high school. I worked in a bakery decorating cakes, and it's always been fun, but I never really had that. I couldn't find that niche market because especially this area is so oversaturated with home bakeries. And I really didn't want to get into it because there are so many. I mean, you probably can, and there are people that, you know, break through, but beyond going through your little family and social circle, you know, it's hard to break through. So this was, when our youngest was diagnosed with allergies, this was kind of the perfect fit for me, because there are a lot of people that do, well, I shouldn't say a lot. There are some people that do allergy friendly baking, but a lot of those don't have the decorating skills to go with it. So it's nice to have that, I don't know, I want to say grocery store quality, usually not a good term, but to have something that you have specialized just for you that's decorated with more than just a very basic, something that looks like mom did.
Yeah.
No offense to moms out there.
But
none taken.
I've seen the printing. If you're a business and you're interested, I've seen Cortney do logos, and
those are so fun to do. we did a local author. She had a book release of her second book, and she contacted me. I'd met her through one of our networking groups, and it was just so fun to do that, to have the local relationship. And she was so excited to see her cover on a cookie that she got to send home with all her book signing guests, and it was just kind of the perfect relationship.
Wow. Okay, I'm looking at my list here, and I don't know if we jumped over legalities. I recommend to everyone who's considering a pop-up shop, before you talk to the landlord, make sure that you know what permits you need, if you need any licenses, and what kinds of insurance you have, whether you can do anything through your homeowners, whether you need a separate vendor's license. Contact the county or the state of Ohio. That information is out there. It's not like a garage sale. You can't just get out your little box and stick some stickers on your products. It's important that you do that first and show that landlord how seriously you're taking it, and that you're prepared to do this, with all the professionalism that it requires. I have a section here about setup. Has your how you use the space changed much over time?
It has a little bit. We've trying to get into more of the pre-orders, especially starting up now, pre-COVID, post-COVID, however, during COVID, however we're going to call this now. We're trying to get more, especially for these next couple, at least till we get our toes in the water and see how things work. We're going to have everything pre-packaged. Generally we don't, we just have it in our containers, and we are the ones that get out. But with people coming in, that makes me nervous. So we're going to have everything individually sealed, just as an extra layer of protection. We're actually going to try, which I just made the other day, a Google form for pre-orders. We'll see how that goes. But if I've always done pre-orders with that, like I said, we've kind of transitioned to limiting to our menu that we post for that specific event. But we're doing an option with that this time that will just meet you outside curbside. It is a very small space. It is a big window, but it's a very small space. And so we're asking that people come in one family at a time, because obviously with a big window, you can see if there's somebody in there, and wait your turn that way. And then if people are more comfortable just meeting out in the open, we're going to do that too. So I think as we transition with that, things will change, but I'm not entirely sure how that's going to look, because it is a small space. So just keeping our space from our customers is going to be interesting.
Yeah, I know, for example, our local library, they're doing, you can order your books and make an appointment to pick up your books, because I'm sure they could get a crush of patrons and just not have the staff or the space,
Mm-hmm.
To make those transactions. So I think that's a new consideration to think about.
Yep.
Parking, how that might be different if people are waiting in their cars.
And we are downtown, so parking is a problem like every downtown. But there are some lots closer, but when we have older people or ones with little children that don't necessarily want to come out and stand in the heat to wait for the things, it will be interesting to see how these next couple go. Is it, for the most part, I am the one that talks to the customers and gets everything bagged up, and then my husband's the one that rings everybody up and does the technology side. So we kind of have an assembly line going. So if we have to take one of the two of us out to go outside to do a curbside pickup, that obviously is going to take one of us away from inside. So not entirely sure how that's all going to go. And like I said, with the first one with this, I'm not even sure how our turnout's going to be. Part of me says it's going to be really slow because people don't want to go out. And then the other half says it's going to be packed because we've been closed for several months. So I don't know how it's going to go.
Yeah.
Do you find that your customers have quite a few questions for you?
The new ones do, yes. And the ones with the severe allergies, even though if they could have been a customer for, 4 years now, they will still ask whatever, if it's Addie safe, or, is it Shelly safe, or whatever, whatever the child or the grandchild, that's kind of how our relationship is. If I need a cake for so-and-so, or so that's how I know their allergies. And even if they've been there, if it's posted, this is everything free, and they will still come in and are you sure? Is this okay for me to get? Which is awesome. I don't discourage that at all. I would rather have the questions than have an issue down the road.
How has finding supplies been during this period for you? Have you had
Hard.
everything you knew? Has it?
Yes, which I did not expect. The allergy friendly stuff, store bought, like the products haven't been too bad. Which I kind of joked at my husband. I have an autoimmune disorder, so I have not been out much. Just this past couple of weeks has been the first time that I've been out. I generally send my husband, and as he was going, he's like, everything's stocked. It's crazy. It's like, well, because people don't really buy stuff like that, unless you have to. But just our base ingredients, we make our own flours, and that has been wiped out everywhere, which blows my mind because there aren't people that really bake from scratch. So I don't know what they're doing with it all. And even Amazon is where we get a lot of our stuff from, especially just to not go to stores, and the delays of that have been crazy. We've all gotten everything eventually, but if it's normally supposed to take 2 to 3 days, we're looking at 3 or 4 weeks for stuff. Which was kind of a consideration of even doing the pop-up now. I've got a pretty decent supply built back up, so I've got enough, I feel, for the next 2, but if we run into supply issues again, I'm not sure if there's going to be a break in between there.
Right. Anything else that we haven't covered? I have my list, but I'm sure I have staff on here. I'm thrilled to hear that you're not really dealing with that. Anything else that you would cover?
Not really. It's a learning curve. I mean, you got to jump into it. And the reason I think we've had the success is because we've been around for 4 years doing this. I think if we were brand new to it and didn't have that client base built up, I don't know that we would have been able to sustain it, just because of trying to have somebody find you who doesn't really know who you are would be difficult. I've seen a lot of people, like, right off the gate try to do these online, just kind of observing how they do things, and that makes me nervous for them, and there are times where we can only have 5 or 6 customers, depending on the date, if that happened to be a football tournament or a basketball tournament, whatever, and the literally whole town is away. That can definitely hurt, which when we try to set up these set dates, you can't look at the schedule and fit everything, every possible interaction that the community could have. And there have been times that have been lower, but if you take that with then not having people coming specifically for you, I think that's kind of a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, I begin to think that even though I'm a sports fan of sorts, I really feel like our lives used to just be so sports dependent, because if there was a football game or, soccer tournament or whatever it might be, there's the domino effect of that on the whole community, including the business community. And
Yes.
I'm really appreciating that now.
Yeah. And even if they didn't go, there's other people of, well, nobody's going to be in town, so I'm not going to be open because I know I'm not going to sell anything. And it really is. Or people, that don't go to the restaurant because they know they're not going to run into so-and-so. And it really is a big impact that we're going to have to all reevaluate as we move forward.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Any other questions? Yeah, I'm super excited that businesses have an opportunity like this to test the waters, to do what works for their business, to have a bigger geographic area, you name it. I think it's a great innovation, and I appreciate your sharing your experiences with us.
Well, thanks for having me.
So a week from tonight, we are going to have a brown bag. Tuesday at noon, we'll have another coffee hour. I don't have a guest yet, but I have a long list of things that I need to learn about, and and want to share with people. On June 11th, we'll be talking about marketing, calls to action, and menus. For some reason, I am really tuned in right now to, if I want to go somewhere and they don't have a menu for me to preview, it's a huge disadvantage. I like to ask my whole family, you know, if I'm doing carry out, what do you want? You know, let's check it out. Or, you know, for those of us who find decisions hard, you know, I don't want to be sitting there in the drive-through going, okay, what do you want? I just encourage everybody to have those menus, and then the calls to action, whether it's a phone number or a link or whatever. We're going to talk to a couple people with a lot of experience, including Marlena Ballinger from the Doe Hook Meat Market, about menus and calls to action. So thank you very much. I hope you enjoy the rest of your evening. Good job on finding a quiet corner. And I hope that I'll see you all soon. Good night.
Thank you.
you.